So you think you've got ADHD, otherwise you wouldn't be on this video, am I right? But everyone's telling you, oh my god, no, you don't have it because you're not hyper enough. That's just for little disruptive boys. It's because TikTok diagnosed you. Everyone's getting diagnosed these days. No, I'm here to tell you, I live and prove that you can get diagnosed for free on the NHS. And I've got the mug to prove it. Look at this. Diagnosed with ADHD. I'm not a doctor, I don't know everything about ADHD, I just want to tell you my experience. I am trying my hardest to keep this video as concise as I possibly can. I know I love to yap, it's the ADHD in me. So I'm guessing your attention span probably isn't great. I will not be offended if you put me on 2x speed. I won't be offended if you just skip to the parts you need. But my name is Sadie. I was diagnosed with ADHD last year at age 28, which actually is young for women because it is severely underdiagnosed in girls and women. Every frustration, every struggle you are going through right now, I get it because people put me off getting my diagnosis for years. So I just thought there's no hope, the waiting list is too long, but it can happen if you advocate for yourself and push for it. The thing I get asked the most is how did I get diagnosed? So that is what we're going to go through today. The step-by-step, what I said to the GP, how I got on the waiting list. Please like and subscribe and comment because it really helps me out. Let's get into it. Step 1, numero uno. Do your research. I know you don't want to hear this. I know it's boring and no one wants to do that. No one wants to be researching, studying for an exam that apparently takes 3 years to get on. Like, I get it, but you need to understand ADHD. The doctors are not going to diagnose you on a whim, okay? Sadly, you have to do the work and you have to take control. Learn everything you can about ADHD, and I'm not talking about the quirky little TikTok videos. I made them myself and I've fallen down that trap, and I actually do think social media is one of the reasons why I found out I had it. So I'm not even hating just because you've seen a video that's like, do you get distracted sometimes? Yes. Do you interrupt people sometimes? Yes. It doesn't necessarily mean. It is whether the diagnostic symptoms of ADHD are impacting and hindering your life to the point that it's too much, like it's all consuming. A lot of people kept saying to me, oh, I think you have ADHD. And that's another thing. People with ADHD or neurodivergent people say you have it. I'm telling you now, you probably have it because we have a sixth sense. I can feel it. Someone talks to me for 2 minutes and I'm like, I become like a doctor. I'm like, you've got it. You've caught it. You've got the disease. It's not a disease. Because when you get on with someone a little too much, it means they've got the neurospice in them too, and it's called a peer review. When I actually researched on proper health websites, I'm talking NHS, I'm talking actual legitimate doctors' websites, then it all started making sense. There's so many books you can read, there's so many YouTube videos you can watch of other people's experience, and it starts making sense. And I will say it is harder for women because a lot of the info out there is based on men, especially like young boys in school. It's just the classic, they're disrupting the class and you're like, oh, he's got ADHD. That is not how it presents in women. That is not how it presents in everyone. There's actually 3 different types of ADHD. Hyperactive ADHD, there's inattentive ADHD, and then there's combined type, which is the one I have where you're hyper and you're inattentive. You get the best of both worlds. You get buy one get one free. Women, because of society, we are taught to be quiet and good, so we learn to mask, and masking is where essentially you try and fit in. You put on a mask to get on with the rest of the world, but secretly you're crumbling inside. It's like your room's a mess, your life's a mess, you can't hit deadlines, your work is going crazy, but on the outside you're like, yes, thank you, please. And women learn to do this much quicker and much better than men. Not to say that men don't do it, and not to say that women can't have the typical hyper, oh my god, there's a squirrel ADHD. They definitely can, but typically it is harder for women, and you can see that in the statistics, okay? I would start writing down in your notes app all the ways you think ADHD shows up in your life, i.e. maybe you lose things all the time. Write a literal example, like every day I cannot find my keys in my bag, I've lost my wallet this many times, I've had to replace my phone. Have these really tangible, real examples of how it is annoying you in your everyday life. This is going to be so helpful for when you get diagnosed. I know it's a lot of work, but I actually found it quite therapeutic because it really helped me be like, no, this is something I need to figure out because I have this, like I felt it in my soul. And I will say that I think, although I didn't know and I was worried I wouldn't get diagnosed, I think you know deep down in your soul if you have it or not. You know, it's always there. It's always there, and you just feel like you don't fit in with people and you find life a little bit harder than everyone else. Can't complete things, you're fidgeting and you can't focus. You will just always feel that, okay? It's present every single day. Some days are better than others, but mostly you'll know. So I'm sure you already have a million examples that you could even put in the comments of this YouTube video if you wanted. Specifically, do it how it showed up in childhood, like your younger childhood, in school, teenage years, then even go on to like work life, daily home life, how it affects your friendships, relationships, because it really does. This is so important because to get diagnosed, you need evidence that you are hitting at least 7 of the diagnostic traits or symptoms of ADHD. I'm not saying lie and be like, I definitely do that, but just be honest with yourself, because it's okay if you don't have it. You might actually have a different neurodivergence or a different mental health thing, because a lot of things cross over, like PTSD and autism and BPD, borderline personality disorder, and sometimes bipolar present kind of similarly to ADHD. Understanding yourself and thinking, is it worth it of doing this whole GP thing? Because maybe you don't, maybe you are just sometimes a bit distracted, you don't actually have a disorder. Step 2, and honestly, everyone take a deep breath, because I know this triggers us. This is the scariest thing in the world, and I wish I was a little kid and I could get my mum to do it, but you're gonna have to talk to your GP. The worst thing, especially when you're a woman, you sometimes feel like they discredit you and don't understand you, and all I can say to you is you have to be an advocate for yourself. You need to find the confidence, you need to find the power, and you need to go in there and literally be like, you need to help me, you need to diagnose me. Because I got so to the point where I was so hopeless in life that I was just like, this doctor needs to help me. I'm not saying you need to be in a dark place for them to diagnose you, but I just think you need to be like serious about it and get it across. You can't just go in and say,
oh, I'm a little bit late. Sometimes I don't want to wash up.
It's like, no one wants to wash up, babe. Like, you need like examples. You need to be like, this is really upsetting me kind of thing. I don't want to trigger anyone, but this is a trigger warning. Getting that diagnosis could save someone's life, because the rates of suicide are so much higher in people who are neurodivergent, because we're very misunderstood and we feel like we don't fit in. It can be extremely lonely, and a lot of the times it gets misdiagnosed as anxiety and depression. People say they want to get diagnosed with ADHD and they're like,
no, you've just got anxiety.
and it's like, that drives me insane, because there's not enough education on it. Anxiety and depression are symptoms directly of ADHD, okay? Since I got diagnosed, I don't really get anxiety as much anymore. The constant overthinking in your brain makes you go into a negative spiral, and you kind of always looking for danger. It does bring up anxiety and also depression, because you just feel low and embarrassed and your energy levels are off. Sometimes you're really hyper, sometimes you can't get out of bed for days. So it just does look like depression and anxiety, but it's not. It's ADHD. So please, I hope this video, if it does one thing, I hope it inspires you to just go to the GP and not be scared of them. And if they say no, get a second opinion. Be like, excuse me, please can I have a second opinion on this? I was very lucky. My GP, I only had to write to them. They have like an email message thing where you can kind of write your problem and then they get back to you. Most GPs will have that, so do that first, and this is where your research is going to come in handy, because you can explain, these are all the symptoms I'm having, this is what I'm struggling with, make them understand how hard this is making your life. Then we go on to step 3, which will be the forms. Whoever invented that to get diagnosed with ADHD, you need to do millions of paperwork. Jail. You should be locked up, because surely the fact that we struggle to do admin and paperwork, we should just get the diagnosis there. You'll get these forms, and it will be a lot, but it's really important. It's the first step in getting onto the waiting list, and this is where you get to have your say in more detail. Also do this little tick box. If I've still got the form, I'll put it up, and you say on a scale of 1 to 5 how much that sounds like you. Step 4 is the most important step. I just said the forms were the most important step, but no, I actually lied, I'm sorry. And that is the right to choose pathway. I'm going to repeat it so it actually goes in.
The right to choose pathway.
Right to choose. We as UK citizens have a right to choose private assessment for ADHD and autism. Okay, and not many people know about it, so I'm here to tell you this is life-changing, this is game-changing. You feel kind of slay. Hello GP, I'm exercising my right to choose. Okay, this means we are allowed, if we ask for it, to have access to be assessed by a private practice instead of going on the NHS waiting list. The NHS waiting list, as we know, has anyone got diagnosed on the NHS? I don't even know one person that has, because it's so long. Why did I not get on it when I was 5? I was playing with brats. No, hun, you should have been locking in and getting on the NHS wait list. You'll do your forms, and if you're successful, if you've got through to the X Factors judges' houses of ADHD, you will get a call and they'll say, okay, basically we think you're bad enough, we're actually going to put you through to assessment. And you're like, what? They said, you know, about the NHS waiting list, and I was like, I would like to do right to choose pathway. And she actually was so nice. She was like, oh yeah, no worries, these are your options, and they'll give you the private practice options. One thing I will say, I had a very lucky and easy experience with it. I know some people have been told like, no, They're not allowed to tell you no, I'm pretty sure. I could be lying, I'm not a doctor. She gave me my options. You can either go to this practice or this practice. I was like, love, that's all great and dandy, but all I care about, which one is gonna get me diagnosed the quickest? And she said, oh, ADHD 360 is only a 5 months waiting list. I was like, fab, I'll go on it. Woo, let's go. I was at best day of my life, honestly, best day of my life. I did feel like I'd got through to X Factor. That's how I felt. That's how you feel, because it's just such a pain getting on these things. 5 months later. 5 months later, I get a message and I'm in ADHD 360. I've got a username and a password and I am like, get me in there, get me in there. Then, what do you think happens next? Take a wild guess. You have to do more forms. The forms. I never filled out so many forms in my life, honestly, but they need it because it's a new practice, so they need it. It's pretty much the same forms, but you've got all your research and your notes, so you can just tip tap away. Get those forms done. Do not prolong this waiting any longer. In these forms, there is also an option to give more information. So that is childhood school reports, where it might say, you know,
Sadie's messy, or Sadie talks too much, or Sadie isn't good at schoolwork.
blah, blah, blah. Or work reports.
Sadie's bad at time management, blah, blah, blah.
Also, you can get a family member to fill out a form, tick which ones they think you do. I shat myself. One, because why would I have a school report? Why would I own that? I'm a hoarder, but I don't hoard that. Also, love my family, love my mum, but I was met with a lot of resistance from family at the beginning. I think they just don't want to admit that someone in the family has ADHD. Their ideas of ADHD is very old school, and they think it's something really bad and awful when it's actually could help you knowing. And there's nothing wrong with us, it's just a disorder we're born with, and that's fine. I didn't really have a family member that would do it for me because I thought they would just not lie, but they wouldn't know. So I just decided not to give them any information, and I was like, I've definitely effed it, but as you can see, living proof, you don't necessarily need that. It's good if you do, but if you've got ADHD, they're gonna be able to see, regardless of whether your mum says, oh yeah, she fidgets. You know what I mean? Then I also had to do an OBS check. No, I didn't. I had to do an OBS test. I had to do, I'm gonna write what the test was called because I don't remember, but I had to do a test. Not every practice does this, but I'm just going to tell you about it anyway. I had to go on a video and I had to play a game, and I was like, yay, this is something I'm going to be good at. The most boring game in the world. And what they do is they film your reactions, and I think it's for 20 minutes. They film how you process it, like how you do it. They film how many mistakes you make in this game. It's a very boring, like the most dull thing. I actually wanted to
Scratch my eyes out.
but it's important for them because they then use your video reactions with other people who have ADHD and see if you're similar. And it's not to diagnose you, but it helps them with their thing. Finally, and if you're still here or if you've skipped to here, thank you, because I know it's a lot. Step 7, the lucky number 7, you get to talk to the ADHD assessor. We've made it. We've made it onto live X Factor finals. Yeah. This is when the nerves start kicking in, and I just start forgetting everything I've written down, and I just start thinking, oh my god, she's gonna think I'm a fake. I faked having ADHD this whole time, and they're just gonna be like, it's not even that bad. She was lovely. I loved her. It was great. They are trained. This is their job. This is their livelihood. We just had a Zoom call. I think it was for around 2 hours, and it's great. You just get to chat about yourself, about your life, about all your problems. Do go back through childhood mostly. So please, I know it's hard to remember things, especially if you're older. It's hard to remember everything you did, but they do focus because it needs to have been present since you were 7, I think, or under teenager, in order to get diagnosed. And I thought I was saying all the wrong things, but I was honest. I wasn't naughty, I just daydreamed in class. I would be doodling, I was looking out the window, not realizing that that's all female traits of ADHD. So just be completely honest, and you don't need to talk anything up or say that you did things when you didn't. Just be honest. It's so funny because she was like, do you fidget? And I was like, no, I don't fidget.
No, I don't fidget.
And she was like, Sadie, I've been watching you on this call for like an hour, and you constantly touch your hair, you constantly touch your jewelry, you constantly touch your rings, you constantly move when you talk. And I was like, really? Oh my god, I didn't even know that I fidget. And she said I talk way too fast. She was like, you're like this. Go through all this stuff, and I did start crying because it was just emotion. And they ask you, what are your goals? Like, what do you want to get out of this? And I said, for me, it's about my self-esteem. I really struggled with self-esteem issues because I just couldn't understand why I can't do what other people can do. And I'm always comparing myself to someone who is neurotypical. Like, why can they just clean up straight away after eating? Why can they just get what they need to get done?
Why is everyone so much better than me and I'm just a piece of crap?
And that is a symptom of ADHD because we have rejection sensitivity, and she told me about that. We always think everyone hates us and we just take things very, emotionally and sensitively, and she could see that because I was crying already. You'll do all this talk and it gets to the end and they'll just tell you there and then whether you've won the X Factor and got your ADHD diagnosis, which I love, that there's no more waiting. You don't have to wait for it to get processed. They will just tell you, babe, you're neurodivergent, you're in the club. The relief that washed over me was the best feeling in the world. And I've had some comments saying, oh my god, like, why is she so happy about getting her diagnosis? Someone who's neurodivergent, you will know it is such a big affirming moment, validating moment, that you finally, everything you thought about yourself, a professional has told you is true, and then you're like, ha, there's a reason why I'm like this. It's not all my fault, and I can stop blaming myself, and I've felt so much more confident and happy since. 7 steps and you can do it, okay? My experience is my experience. It could be harder or easier or shorter or longer or different for you, but that is how I got diagnosed, and I hope it does help you in some way. Definitely do the right to choose pathway if you can. The other option, if you do have the money and you just want it over and done with, you can pay and just go straight private. I really did like ADHD 360, so I will recommend them. If you have the means, I would say differences in my life now, knowing 10 out of 10, it would be worth it, but I know it is very expensive. That's why I didn't want to pay for it. But I really appreciate you watching this video. I really hope it's helped in some way and inspired you to get on that waiting list to get your diagnosis, because once you get the diagnosis, you also have access to medication. Everyone has different opinions about it. I definitely did. I thought it was a failure. I thought, oh, if I have medication, it's like I'm saying there's something wrong with me. And I also read all the horror stories. You do hear crazy stories about it, but over 80% of people do have a really good experience on ADHD meds. There are side effects. If you want to learn more about this, I'll do another video, but it has made me be able to become the person I want to be and focus and stop overthinking. And then you can go through life through a different lens of understanding yourself, of knowing I act this way because of this. And that to me is priceless and worth the wait. You're on your ADHD journey. I just want to send you so much love because I know how hard it can be, and I really hope you get your diagnosis and all the support and help you need. Join communities, follow ADHD creators online, read books, educate yourself, know you are not alone. I love you loads, and I'll see you very soon. Please keep me updated on your journeys as well, because I really want to hear from you. Bye.
The forms.